So Marvel has added a new trash to the dumpster fire that is the MCU. So after watching this TV show, I have come to the conclusion that Marvel's quality control has gone out the window. It took me about 4 years to essentially realize the glory days are behind us. The treasure that was once the MCU no longer exists. Echo, an offshoot from the Hawkeye series, revolved around Maya Lopez, who is a deaf amputee that was an assassin in Kingpin's organization. She takes a journey of self-discovery and a murder through her original town of Oklahoma. Now, I do remember when this show was announced a couple of years ago, and my first thought was, why? Like, she didn't even have that great of a performance in the show. I mean, they did utilize her to the best of their ability with her acting capability, because this is literally her second time acting, her first being in the Hawkeye series, and she didn't have a standout performance. It was kind of like a weaker performance compared to everyone else, at least in that show. And I have my gripes with that show, but she definitely wasn't the person that deserved show and or forced upon to carry an entire show. To say that she was like the worst part of the show would basically be like crapping on crap. Side note, I will get to the worst part of the show. Trust me, there is something worse than her acting that's in the show that's basically undeniable that I do have to talk about towards the end of the video. The dialogue was fundamentally disappointing and very basic. In contrast to a show like Fargo, the dialogue, which they tried to make a fundamental element in this story, has to be conveyed using sign language. And it was distracting in a way because the actual writing for the dialogue in which they used to sign was not very good. It was kind of boring, kind of generic. It was very basic. It feels like that dialogue was written by ChatGPT. And on top of that, it was also slowing down the runtime of the show. I did feel like it padded the runtime a little bit. People were talking a lot slower because they have to sigh the word out. It kind of dragged the show on longer than necessary, and from what I watched. Even some of the ways they were framing shots was really weird. There was a scene that takes place in the show where Maya is actually getting up, and then it cuts to her being outside. It's something super small. It's something super simple. They needed to record her walking out of the building. They have the shot framed where you can actually kind of still see the door, which is really weird that they don't just have her walking outside. So I don't think that they put that much effort into utilizing just basic film techniques to be able to convey just small things in the story. I mean, I know I'm nitpicking on this little bit, but these things really do matter. There was an action scene that was supposed to be, I would assume, is a highlight or supposed to be a highlight for this character. It takes place on a train. The lighting was so poor and so bad, you couldn't see anything in that goddamn thing. I mean, I'm talking about a massive lack of attention to detail when it comes to that scene. It was so bad. I switched computers, I switched television shows. I still couldn't get that lighting fixed. It was really hard to look at it. I upped the brightness and everything, and it still didn't work. But the biggest misstep, the biggest problem, the biggest insult to injury for the entire is Kingpin. What? What the... I can't even, I'm literally just, I can barely get my thoughts together on this. Kingpin was done so dirty. I wanted to give Vincent D'Onofrio a hug. I have never got up and man, that man needs a hug for what he was going through. I've watched the interviews. I was like, why is he so sad? But then I realized, maybe I'm crazy. He's probably not sad for any reason. But then I watched the show and I was like, oh, his character is an idiot. This man probably spent, I wouldn't say a decade, but almost probably closer to 8 years, maybe a little bit further than a decade, building this character, the Kingpin. He built this character. And he worked with this character, and he knows this character in and out. But this character and whatever the Netflix version and the I call it the Disney version, are two different versions. Because Kingpin in the Netflix version is a strategist. He's extremely intelligent. He's so intelligent to the point of which he would learn multiple languages and pretend to not be able to speak them. Because he pretends to be dumb so that people can underestimate him, so that he will never get, no one will ever get like the jump on it. He did that. He did that in Daredevil, where he literally learned another language. So you telling me that for someone he allegedly cares about, he wouldn't take the time to learn sign language? It just doesn't make sense for his character. His character wouldn't be like that. I mean, he took an interest into art, right? Because Vanessa was interested in art. I mean, he wanted to buy a piece, but when he started liking her more, he started taking more an interest. So it was really weird how they just changed his character completely, and they made him like want to, like, it's like they tried to change him to be obsessed with her, but not romantically, in the form of like a daughter. But it just, because it's not his real daughter, it's like his surrogate daughter, it just doesn't add up with why he would be obsessed with Maya Lopez in this show. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, that's why it was the biggest misstep. It was the biggest FU. Like, you can't just cherry pick what you want from the show. You can't go and say, I want his backstory, but I don't want his intelligence. I want his anger, his ferocity, but I don't want his strategic awareness. I want his rage, but I don't want his competence. Picking and choosing what you want from the character, and then you're handing it off to us, and you're saying these are the same characters. Listen, I would be okay if this was a different person. If it was established that this was a different person, I'd be okay. But whatever this is, this is not Kingpin. This is somebody else. This is somebody's grandpa. This is somebody's like fat uncle or something. This is not the Kingpin. So, in summary, I don't think that they should try to continue lying to people, saying that this Kingpin is the same Kingpin as a Netflix film. Separate that. Just cut it in half. Just say, hey, we just took the backstory and we didn't really take the character in, the entirety. Similar to Daredevil, where Daredevil, he's in She-Hulk, but I didn't even want to claim that Daredevil, I mean, it is Charlie Cox, but I didn't want to claim that that's going to be like the same Daredevil. I was like, that show ended. I mean, he's probably going to get a different show. I mean, I have to live with it. He had 3 amazing seasons. I'll move on. But whatever they're trying to do now, man, they gotta fix it. Also, I do want to talk about one more thing about the Echo, the rated TVA MA thing. That shit was complete bullshit. I don't believe that this show was supposed to be rated TV MA at all, because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like the action scenes were just extended and they added more shots to be a little bit more graphic. But no, this is not this rated TMA or whatever that crap is, or mature show. They have alcohol in the show, and the main character takes the alcohol and literally pours it down the drain and picks up soda. You don't do that. You don't do that in your rated TVA or TMA show, whatever that shit is called. So yeah, you guys don't understand what you're doing. Like, I don't get it. Like, Echo is just this whole garbage fest, and it almost kind of gets on my nerves to kind of talk about this a little bit. Like, I literally wrote a script. And as I was reading the script, I was like, I am really nice about this show. So I just kind of just went off the rails, man. I really don't like what they did with this show. I really don't like what they did with the character of Kingpin. I'm letting you know now, I don't think she's going to show up at all. I don't think she's going to show up anymore in the MCU. I think this is probably her last performance. And people are like, it's due to the ratings. I don't think the ratings were going to help anything. But this young lady, this is clearly her second time acting, and she's definitely no prodigy. So I'm looking at it. Like I said, I'm looking at how did she get a show? How? I don't understand it. Like, she wasn't that great in Hawkeye. Hawkeye wasn't a great show, but she just wasn't amazing, like, at all. Like, I mean, if you have a standout performance, okay, but I think, well, they already stated that the show was supposed to have 8 episodes or whatever, but they said they reshot the show. And I think what they did was something that I do want to talk about. I think the plan was for, at the end, Maya takes over Kingpin's organization. I think that was the goal. I think that was the ultimate plan. It sounds weird that I don't think that Disney would do it, but it feels like that's where they were heading, because Maya doesn't really get a redemption arc. It's 5 episodes, but if you watch it, there is no real actual redemption arc. In the second episode, she blows up Kingpin's warehouse and a bunch of people are dead. Like, I mean, and then there's no talk about forgiveness, and then as a little girl, she's like murdering birds with rocks. Like, this is not the character you based to give a show like this. I mean, this is like a Punisher show light, or a fake Punisher show. That's what it felt like. But to give an overall awareness of the show, or overall conclusion for the show, I'm gonna rate the show like a 4 out of 10. I thought this show was was garbage. I thought the show was crap. Yeah, the Maya Lopez snooze fest is definitely going to be like a 4 out of 10, and I'm being generous. It was a 3 out of 10 until Daredevil showed up for the 1 minute he was in the show, and he let a murderer get away. Yep, 4 out of 10. I'm your boy Rant, and I'm out.